of September 23rd, 2024. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31st, 2025. This meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Sorry, I needed to mute myself. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 874-140709#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post the record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Noble Hanson, our chairman.
Thank you. It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meetings under the open meetings law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of agenda item discussions. So we have 4 items on the agenda today, but first we'll establish a quorum, and when I call your name, please say present. Carol Boyce.
Present.
John Beckley.
Present.
Ron Broman.
Here.
Dick Edwards.
Present.
Noble Hanson, I'm here, and we have our alternate, Carol Gordon.
Here.
Okay. So first on the agenda is a variance hearing and approval of IA Technology for Benjamin and Heather Morgan, 98 Horizon Drive, East Southeast LLC. And Thad Eldridge is here to present the case.
Good afternoon. For the record, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast. Ben Morgan's in the audience. So we have a 26,000 square foot lot, just shy, 25,953. So by right, it would have 2 bedrooms. We're asking for a third with IA Technology. That will be right next to the driveway. We've proposed microfast just because that's the version that comes in an H20 wheel loading. We've provided all the requisite information, including floor plans. He doesn't know what he wants to do with the basement at the moment. I know that there was a request made the other day for the basement floor plans. If it is anything, it'll be a large open room and a mechanical room along with a bathroom to service the pool. He's not even sure if he's going to build the pool at this point. So we're ready for the eventual, but at the moment, not proposing everything. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Just the sewage disposal system plans address is 0 Horizon Drive, but it's the address on the variance request is 98 Horizon Drive?
When we did the plans, we didn't have an address. So it started out as 0, but then as he got a building permit together, they assigned an address.
So in the end, it will be 98 Horizon Drive?
I believe so.
Okay, great.
Unless they change their minds on that. And by they, unless the town changes their mind on the final address. But
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? I guess the basement plan wasn't with the original information we have, but now we have it. And 3 bedrooms. Okay, so it's a 25,953 square foot lot. So normally eligible for 2 bedrooms, and with the variance, a 3rd bedroom can be given normally with a STU. So it looks pretty straightforward. And does somebody want to make a motion?
I recommend we approve this variance with the conditions stated on Judy's letter.
Yeah, and then a second?
Second.
Okay, Ron, a second. And I guess, Judy, you want to read the, or any input from the public? In the audience or online? Okay, and then maybe Judy can read the conditions?
The typical 9 conditions, the applicant should restrict the property to a maximum of 3 bedrooms and record the restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds and submit a copy of the executed deed restriction to the Health Department. The applicant shall sign a covenant with the board agreeing to comply at such time as the town of Chatham through its Board of Health and/or Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners directs the connection of this property to the municipal sewer when it becomes available. Throughout its life, the system shall be under an operation and maintenance agreement. The O&M agreement shall be for at least 1 year and may be with any Mass certified operator of the appropriate grade that has received training by the company on the operation of the system. Effluent of the system shall be monitored at least twice per year for the first 2 years, preferably in May and October. The effluent shall be field tested in accordance with Mass DEP standard conditions for secondary treatment units certified for general use. In addition, a lab test of the effluent for total nitrogen to meet the performance standards of 19 milligrams per liter shall be collected and analyzed by a certified lab. Water meter readings are to be provided with the semi-annual report. If any of the field tests or lab tests fail, follow-up tests shall be conducted by a certified lab and an evaluation by the operator within 30 days. After the required 2 years testing, application can be made to the board or its agent for review and possible modification of the monitoring requirements. The applicant agrees to apply a minimum of 6 inches compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas of the property. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan. No alteration to the floor plan of the dwelling or the engineered site plan will be allowed without further review by the board or its agent. This variance is be granted pursuant to the Town of Chatham subsurface sewage regulations and nitrogen loading regulations, is valid for 1 year from the date of the Board of Health approval. A permit must be issued and work commenced during that 1-year period, or the variance shall expire.
Okay, thank you. So no input from the public? And I guess we can probably go ahead and take a voice vote on this. All in favor of the variance for 98 Horizon Drive, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. Okay, so that variance is granted for 98 Horizon Drive.
Thank you much. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, this is the last.
Next on the agenda is a preliminary subdivision plan review for Eastwood Companies, 155 Bridge Street, Clark Engineering LLC, Outermost Land Survey, Inc. And David Clark is here to present the request for variance.
David Clark, Clark Engineering, on behalf of Eastwood. Susan Ledoux is also here online.
Can you speak a little louder?
Sure. Susan Ledoux is also here. I don't know if Susan's got something prepared or not.
Yeah, I'll just let David
Okay.
do the presentation. I'm here for questions.
Right.
Thank you.
So this is a 2-lot subdivision, one being a panhandle and the other lot conforming to all aspects of zoning. Both lots have the minimum buildable upland. We'll be proceeding with a definitive plan in the next few months, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Dick.
So this is the last lot before the bridge on the right,
It's-
going down Bridge Street. It's like a big hedge.
If you're heading east, it's the
Yeah, that is what.
one right on the river. Yep.
So there are no houses in there?
Nope, not anymore.
No.
There
Oh,
was-
they've been.
There was 2
demolished.
houses on there, yeah.
Okay, so the tennis court, and there were 2 houses there.
Yeah.
That was, okay. All removed. So they're all removed. And the septic systems for those houses are still there? or-
I think they've been removed at this point. But since we're starting from scratch, it will have to, everything will have to conform to zoning and your nitrogen loading regulations.
How big is this whole parcel?
It's like it's 66,000 square feet, an acre and a half.
2.83 acres.
2.83.
There we go.
Okay. 2.8,
And so
3 acres, wow.
each lot
Well, the
is
buildable upland is 33,000.
over 30,000
Yeah,
each.
that's the zoning buildable upland. The Board of Health upland area will be larger than that.
Quite a property.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any question or comments from the public? And I have just one general question for Judy. Just kind of describe to me what we're doing when we approve a preliminary subdivision plan. What are we doing exactly, just from, as a Board of Health?
Basically, we're just approving it for the use of, for building for subsurface sewage. You're basically saying that the lot is
Suitable.
suitable, yeah. So there's no reason from a public health standpoint to deny it.
And the detailed plans are to be forwarded later.
Right, so this is the preliminary plan, and if there's any changes made by the planning board, I assume then they'll come back with a final plan.
Yeah, well, the final plan will have details on the driveway construction. That's really the only other thing that's required under the statute.
Okay, other questions or comments from the board? And then I asked if there was comments from the public, and maybe we can get a motion on the variance?
I move we approve the preliminary subdivision plan.
No, second.
And a second from Carol. Okay, and this does not have,
Specific.
there's no conditions on this sort of thing. Okay, we can probably go ahead and vote. Orally, all in favor say aye,
Aye.
and all opposed say no. Okay, so that preliminary subdivision plan review for 155 Bridge Street is granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so next on the agenda is, we've asked Rob Faley to come by, DPW Director, to talk to us about complaints we've had about odors from the transfer station, primarily the blue building, the big tin building there. And maybe initially, Rob, you can just present to us the problem that's there with the blue building, from your standpoint.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Rob Faley, Director of Public Works. So as you said, the primary odor source is from the tipping floor, which is the big blue building. Of that, the commercial haulers dropping the trash typically from restaurants is probably the biggest contributor to the odors. Usually that trash contains a lot of liquids, fish parts and things of that nature. That combined with the condition of the tipping floor, which is the poured concrete floor, the concrete is falling in numerous areas. The rebar is becoming exposed. It's not a flat or smooth surface.
You all right? Yeah, your online feed is frozen here.
Yep, we lost you for a second. We lost you for a second there, Rob.
Okay, am I back?
Yes.
You're
All right.
back.
Sorry about that. So there's a large rubber blade on the bucket of the loader, which kind of acts as a squeegee that helps us clean the surface a little bit better. The uneven floor kind of tears that rubber apart. Even when we power wash, the floor doesn't really get cleaned. It kind of chips away more of the concrete, and the liquids still stay in those crevices that are there. So So that's basically the situation we're in now, and our ability to clean it the best we can.
Yeah, so your reply said that you clean it every 1 to 2 months, you power spray that floor?
Yeah, less so in the summer. That's when it's needed most, but we just can't shut the building down enough to power wash it. We typically do it on a Wednesday when we're not open to the public. But usually there's so many other things going on with the amount of people visiting the transfer station. We typically do it like once in June, and then we skip the summer and do it again in September.
Okay.
But typically, yeah, about every 2 months.
Dick Edwards?
So the trash haulers back their trucks into the building and dump the refuse on the floor. Is it possible to back all the way in and dump it into the trailers that are at the back? I mean, it seems kind of silly to dump liquid, fish parts onto a floor that you only wash once every 2 months. And you have those trailers parked in there. And if the truck backed all the way in and dumped it into the trailer, you wouldn't have all that standing liquid. So that's one question. The other question is, how much more waste is dumped into that building this year than, say, 5 years ago before COVID? I mean, we've had an enormous increase in the number of people in Chatham during the summer months, and yet we haven't changed anything in terms of the way we manage the trash. We still just clean it every 2 months, every month, 1 to 2 months. I mean, it seems we're just asking for a major. I know you go in there the Monday after the 4th of July weekend, it's horrible in there. And, there are 100 seagulls in there flying around, and there's all piles 8 feet high. Can you figure out a way to get the trash into the trailers and get the trailer out and the new trailer in there more often, particularly given the dramatic increase in the amount of use that building gets? I have no
Yeah, so the
idea how many
trailers-
people are in Chatham, but it seems to me we have like 20,000 people, 25,000 people in the month of July. It's outrageous. And if if you live 500 yards from that facility, it's going to be difficult.
Carol?
So Rob, it looks like you're looking to us to talk about the $300,000 that it would take to rehab that slab, and you're looking for the Board of Health to kind of say that, yes, that would be a good idea, maybe move forward with it to Jill? Is that what you're looking for?
No, I mean, that would be helpful. That would be a first step. And, taking some of the previous comments I've just heard, that, it may not be the most progressive system that we have in place. What it does give us an opportunity to review some of the refuse that's deposited there, and it's less likely that load will be rejected at CMAS when we bring it over, if we have an opportunity to kind of handle it and load it into the trailers ourselves.
Okay.
Well, I guess the question that I'd have is, you have the problem as it exists, and if anyone who goes and looks at the floor, it's pretty amazing sometimes that it's sludge an inch or two. It's something. So the question is, there's not going to be a new dump. Who knows when? A new transfer station. Next town meeting, maybe it'll come up again, maybe not. And even if it did, you're talking about probably years to get something done. So the question that I have that might address the complaints we have is, what can be done now to make the situation better? Clean it more frequently? Is there other technology, disinfectants, cleaning systems that are used at other transfer stations? And is it possible that you mentioned just redoing the floor? Is that something that might possibly be done before a whole new transfer station is put in? Is that something that you have thought about or talked about with the town? Is that even possible to go in there and lay a new layer of concrete and epoxy finish it or something?
Yeah, so we do use a disinfectant when we clean. And it does help. Incredible amount of reduction of odors when we do that. But it comes back pretty quickly.
When you say quickly, what do you mean, in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, or
It,
depends on
it
the
all
weather?
depends. Sometimes if you have a few dumpsters that have been sitting in the sun for a week and the first truck that brings it in, it could return.
And they're only cleaning every month or two. I mean, is there a reason why you couldn't clean every 2 weeks?
It's just staff resources. We do the best we can. It does take about 4 hours to clean it efficiently.
Is that something you've asked for, the resources to do it? Is there a discussion going on with the town, or is it just something you're handling as best you can until something changes?
We are handling it the best we can. We were hoping to, as a stopgap measure, pour a new floor. I think that'll alleviate a lot of the concerns.
You were hoping to do that? Is that something that's been discussed with the town, or?
Not as of yet. We were discussing whether the additional money we had available, we could put forward some kind of an effort like that, but it hasn't been determined whether that would have to go to town meeting or not.
Doesn't seem having a new floor is gonna help very much if you're only cleaning it every 2 months. I mean, that stuff's just gonna sit there on a new floor.
Well, it would be a much quicker effort if it was a new floor, if it was a smooth concrete floor.
So you would do it more often.
It sounds like it never really gets clean anyway with the crevices, and you can see rebars, you see them, they're showing.
Yeah, right. I've got
We
a,
have a question.
Yeah. I was on the Board of Health when the push to get it cleaned sometime, and that's when they went to close down on Wednesdays. So aren't you still closed on Wednesdays?
Yes, we are.
Isn't that a good day to close it, clean it nice? If there's nobody dropping
Yeah, but
stuff up there and you got the people working.
We do, but we're open 6 days a week. We still have staff there on Wednesdays, so it's kind of a scheduling issue. If we have a holiday, then the employee that worked during that holiday needs to take a day off to cover for that holiday. So then another employee needs to come in and cover their shift during overtime. So it's kind of a vicious cycle we're going through. We're trying to find a remedy to that. But yeah, I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to make it better for all Chatham residents.
Well, I think the big issue for us is, we have the complaints, you're trying to handle the problem. Is there something that we can or should do that would help you, help the transfer station problem and help the town? John?
I've got a question, Rob. Is it possible that the time of the arrival of the commercial trucks has a role on the odor generation and the odor problem? What I'm alluding to, is there a time of day when the commercial trucks could be directed to come and drop their loads that would somehow reduce the odor production from those loads? That was one thought I had. Is there any potential to affect the timing of those restaurant trucks coming in that would reduce the odor production? The other question I have, is there any kind of technology that could be installed? I'm thinking of a large exhaust fan in the roof of the building that runs through, say, charcoal, activated charcoal, in a way that would remove organic odors. Just an idea. And I don't know the answer. Each of those things, I don't know what the answer would be.
I'm not sure if the time of day would make a difference for the commercial haulers, because whether the trash is sitting in a dumpster or in their truck, or I think it would probably result in the same. And for your ventilation question, I'm not familiar with anything. I don't claim to be an expert, but I can certainly do a little bit of research.
Thank you.
How many commercial haulers use the transfer station right now?
I think we have three.
Three in Chatham? And then, yeah, and then when the plans that were turned down for a new transfer station, I think there was like a separate commercial spot. Would that be for more commercial haulers to use the prospective dump? It didn't pass, but was that in the plan as you understood it? Just a question.
So there were a couple of variations in the plan. One of them was for a future phase 3, where the tipping floor building would be used just for commercial haulers. That plan also showed phase 1, where some of the dumpsters at the recycling area would be used for municipal solid waste, and residents would go there to dump their trash into the dumpsters. So there was a separation. We had kind of spoke to a lot of the employees down there, looked at odor generators, thinking that the tipping floor would still be the tipping floor, and the new dumpsters with municipal solid waste would be another odor source. So we were revising that and trying to just rehab the tipping floor building, at least to get it stable and smooth, eliminate, and still have residents and commercial haulers still use the tipping floor. But it didn't get passed, so we're beyond that point.
Dick?
Can I ask, does the front-end loader go in there and scrape the floor clean every day before the close of business at the end of the day? Or does some of that garbage sit there overnight?
Some of the trailers may be full, and we bring them into the tipping floor overnight. We hire a hauling contractor to bring the trailers to CMAS.
When you said before, Rob, that CMAS could reject a load, what are you talking about?
If we have things in there that are not compliant with what they accept, if we have electrical components, what we've seen is people who are going through cancer treatments and may have an adult diaper, and it goes through, it's radioactive, and we'll get a load rejected, and it has to sit in a trailer in our yard for several weeks until the radioactivity dissipates.
Does that happen often?
I've been here a year and a half. It's happened, I think, twice so far for me.
Okay. All right.
So as a temporary measure, because it may be years before this substantially changes, manpower to more frequently clean the floor as it is, or pouring a new slab that would give you something that was easier to clean and that would be more cleanable, might be solutions that you would get to at this time. But it sounds like to wait years before something is done is getting kind of tough. Now, I'm no expert by any means, but just in brief reading, it seems like the modern transfer station is a closed building with an internal air filtration system that keeps everything there and processes it, so none of that gets outside. So I don't know if that was in the new plans, but what we have is totally different than that. Yeah, Ron?
I was just wondering if you can't work around on that Wednesdays, because he's closed. No one can get in there.
Well, it sounds like it's for Mr. Faley, it's a manpower problem.
I mean, they're not there on Wednesdays?
Well, he said some people are. Well, Mr. Faley, maybe you can explain that again, about
I mean, how many people do
possibility
you
of using
need to clean
Wednesdays
it?
to clean it weekly, say, just as a,
That's what it was, that's why we closed on Wednesdays. That was the original, you were here.
I don't think they were closed just to clean the floor. They have a lot of other activities that they have to do up there. And they have limited staff, so, I think that's what Rob's getting at.
Well, I was here when most of it was the complaints that was coming in about the smell up there and the junk on the floor. They closed it down so that they can do it on Wednesdays.
Well,
That was what I remember going through it.
Dick has hand up next.
I personally think it's unacceptable to clean this thing less often than every 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
To clean it every 2 months, I think, is unacceptable. And therefore, I think we should recommend to the select board that more staff be allocated to the trash disposal group, so that this can be done in a way that doesn't produce a health problem. And I think the odors emanating from that thing do constitute a health problem for people who live nearby. And so something needs to be done. And if they don't have enough staff to clean it at a reasonably frequently so that the thing stinks in the summer,
Right.
then something needs to be done. And if, they're closed on Wednesday, they should be able to clean it every 2 or 3 weeks, unless they clearly don't have enough staff, and they should have more staff.
Well, that gets to the question of what we can do that would help Mr. Faley get manpower or whatever to help take care of the problem.
That it's a
And that's
health
what
problem.
we plan to talk about.
Right.
The other thing that came up is whether we should inspect it and just actually look ourselves so we can say that, yes, we were there and we saw it. But
Well,
Well,
I've
we've all-
been there,
we've all
I've
seen
been
it.
there
Right.
after the 4th of July weekend.
He brings his family on field trips over there.
John,
Another observation is the fact that we always talk about this at the same time every summer, right? We don't have an odor problem there in March. We don't have an odor problem there in November. We have an odor problem there during several tight weeks, not a lot, when you have a converging of factors, right? High temperature, high
I
humidity,
think for
a lot of
2
people
to
in
3
town.
months, we have
Well,
a problem.
I think, I
It's
don't even,
worse than it was years ago.
I don't even think it's bad for 3 months. I think if you went back in time and calculated the timing of the complaints, it would all be in a fairly narrow window of time. And so maybe the way to respond is to marshal extra resources for a fairly short period of time to address the need for odor control during the peak odor weeks of the year
more frequent washing in warm months.
in a very targeted way.
Like from Memorial Day to Labor Day, is that what you're thinking?
I don't even think that long.
Okay.
I think this is,
Kind of an easy
I mean,
one.
I could go back in time, I think with some notes, but
And we're only talking 4 hours to clean it. It's-
I understand.
Right, yeah,
My
so
point is, you
that-
don't have to clean it every week, year-round. My point is, you can focus targeted resources for a certain strategic window of time,
Right.
and spend less money, but at least tamp down the odor epidemic during the peak time when you have these factors all converging.
It's the heat and the enormous increase in
People,
Population.
right.
in the
And
amount
the
of
humidity,
trash.
and the humidity. And then could you put together a plan? Maybe you use deodorizers, maybe you use fans, maybe you use whatever else you can to try and get through those
And
times.
like I said, 4 hours isn't a long period of time. It seems like somebody should be able to be allocated to do that
Right.
for 4 hours.
The other problem is the condition of the floor, because it's almost uncleanable if you look in there.
With the cracks. yeah.
What's, Mr. Faley, what's the reasonableness of redoing just the floor alone in handling the problem? Is that something that you view as a possibility, or that you would think about recommending, or do you think it would take care of the problem? Because it may be years until this transfer station is changed, if ever.
Sure, I would say more than additional resources for, staffing, it's the floor condition that is a bigger priority. The floor never really gets clean, even when we wash it.
Yeah.
I think we would cut our cleaning time in half if it was a smooth floor. And I think, a lot of the issues would, I don't want to say they'd be eliminated, but they'd be reduced substantially.
So it could be both, but you indicated that there is some money that's already in a pot somewhere for the transfer station use?
Yeah. According to this.
Right,
yes.
so there was a capital article that was passed several years ago. We asked for additional money to do both phases. We were only able to do the the office building, the garage and the staff building. We have some additional money left over from that initial capital article that we could use for the transfers for the tipping floor building.
And is that enough, you think, in the range of being able to do that particular project, the floor?
A lot of it depends on what bids come in at, but we'd
Yeah.
have to really come up with a solid plan to make
Okay.
sure. We may be even able to do that as a change order. I don't want to say it's probably above the percentage cost of the existing contractor that's on site.
All right, John, and then we'll
Is
take
it,
some public.
is it possible to invest the new floor money first and still, at a later date, do the other updates while still preserving the future use of the new floor? Or if you put the new floor in and then you do the full update, then are you throwing away the money you spent on the floor? Or can you, it seemed to me you would still be able to have beneficial use of the new floor at a later date if you just front-loaded that.
Mr. Faley,
Yes, that's correct. It wouldn't be a sacrificial floor. It could be reused.
Okay.
And it all depends, future, if there was some plan in the future for redoing the entire operation there, that's when that would be discussed. If there was like a trough method or something else where it's a conveyor that would bring it directly into the trailers, without having us to maneuver the loader through there all the time.
Right.
so it could be
That's a much bigger discussion.
it could be a floor incorporated into a new structure there, not sacrificial, you said.
Right.
Okay. That's
Yes.
interesting. All right, let's take some questions from the public. Anyone online?
Elaine?
Yes, thank you. I've had this discussion before about this particular phase. One of the things that I think is the bigger issue is that Chatham has become a regional transfer station. And that's because the commercial haulers that are approved to come in to Chatham also service Harwich, Brewster, Orleans. And the reality is they're bringing their trash to Chatham and they're bringing their garbage to Chatham. And we never bought onto being a regional facility, but that's what we've become. And I would venture to guess that Harwich, Brewster, and Orleans don't have the same issues we have because we are getting all the refuse from those different commercial haulers. Now, I don't know how you handle it and say, we are not going to be taking any personal household refuse from any other town because that's what's causing it. Chatham has to pay for this. I mean, this next phase of the project is going to be very expensive for us. And yet we are, it's not going to improve the quality of life for those of us who use the transfer station in Chatham. There's not going to be more parking. The building's going to remain the same. And I have a serious problem with the fact that we are not controlling what is coming in from other towns. They're bringing it to us instead. This is our transfer station. We're not supposed to be regional. Eventually our rates are going to go up because, when it's taken off Cape, there are issues and that costs us money. So I think that's the bigger issue that has to be addressed. The damage to that floor is not necessarily from Chatham, it's from all of our surrounding towns, and we're getting that refuse, and that's what's causing the odor. And we're going to fix the floor, and it's going to happen again eventually. So if there's a way that you can say only construction materials from other towns, we're not taking refuse, and they can deliver that to their respective towns. If it's coming from Harwich, it stays in Harwich, and if it's coming from Brewster or Orleans, it stays there and not in Chatham. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Faley, has there been a discussion of how much of the commercial refuse is from other towns and how much is from Chatham? I mean, do Nickerson and Millie and those people, do they go Harwich and Orleans? I don't know, but do you know?
They do, and we ask them to only bring Chatham's residents' trash, but it's an honor system. There's no way we can really hold them accountable.
And do you have an estimate or an idea of how much is coming from other towns? No.
I really don't.
You could inspect it.
Anecdotally, we could,
For dumps.
anecdotally, we can, surmise that there is a certain percentage, but I really don't have a good grasp on what that would be.
And has the commercial volume increased in the last, several years, or I guess you don't
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. As more people are staying in Chatham full-time, it has increased.
Yeah. Yeah. Other questions or input from the public? No? Okay, other comments or questions from the board? So, well, I think that it was brought up before about doing a inspection, but we may not, maybe we don't have to do that, we could talk about it. But then, I think we could discuss what we might do. I think a letter in support of, basically of Mr. Faley and his problem and the transfer station to, what's the appropriate, the select board, I guess, that just mentions the tipping floor, the frequency of washing, the manpower problem, and, I don't think we're gonna order anything, but we can make a recommendation that we've had, make them aware we've had complaints of odors in the summer, and making a recommendation that they, look into it or discuss it or explore it. Any ideas or comments from the board about what we might do about that, or how we might handle it?
Is there any way that the honor system can be abolished and made into a real system where these trash haulers need to give us? Is there a way that the honor system can be converted into another system where the trash haulers need to give us a document that shows where this truck has been during the day and where it has collected? And if they're lying, then they need a fine. They need to be arrested. I mean, if this is a rule and they're ignoring it, and they're going to Brack's Landing and picking up a whole trash truck full of seafood waste and swinging over to Sam Ryder Road and dumping it because it's easy, then that's unacceptable. And the honor system doesn't sound like it's working very well.
I think if you do have something that people sign, that they tend to comply more, because there may be consequences. But, Mr. Faley, do Orleans and Harwich have a transfer station which allows the commercial haulers to dump?
Harwich does.
I mean, could.
I know Harwich does.
Could Millie and Nickerson, and I don't know who the other person is, could they bring their Harwich trash to the Harwich transfer station and their Orleans trash to the Orleans station? Is that technically possible for them, do you know?
Yeah, I know Harwich does, but they do put a limit on the amount of commercial tonnage they receive daily. I know Brewster has.
Harwich puts a limit on the amount of commercial tonnage that they take daily.
That's correct.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Brewster has stopped accepting commercial haulers.
Who has?
Brewster.
Brewster, yeah.
And I'm unsure about Orleans at this point. I know they did. I'm not sure if they still do.
So why don't we put something in place?
So I am going to be going to the select board in the next couple of months about raising our rates as well. And that may deter some of the commercial haulers when they're paying more per ton.
So it's interesting that, so the town of Brewster, a town on Cape Cod, does not allow commercial dumping in their transfer stations. So it is.
Where does it go?
It is.
Comes to us.
Yeah, where does it
Comes
go?
to us.
Chatham or Yarmouth.
Is there a regional place they can take it to, or sort of a,
They could drive it off
Not
Cape,
affiliated
but
with
then
a
there'd be
town?
incredible cost increases.
I mean, somebody's handling all Brewster's commercial waste, probably us.
Yeah, I mean, they could take it.
Those are places that are sort of openly available to commercial haulers to dump as much as they want?
I don't know all the specifics for commercial haulers.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, other questions or comments? Where we should go from here? Any other comments from the public?
Nope.
So I think, to me, just my opinion, we ought to work on putting together some sort of a letter of recommendation having to do with the tipping floor, new tipping floor, more frequently cleaning it, looking into the commercial hauling tonnage that comes in and what towns it's coming from, and just make a recommendation to, I guess it would go to the select board for them to just think about these things, and we urge them to do something, because we're getting complaints that if Mr. Faley is going to the select board shortly, that would help him when he makes his presentation, I would think.
I think that's a good idea.
Hopefully, there isn't the idea that the fees we make from the commercial tonnage coming from Harwich and Brewster and Orleans is adding more money to the budget, and that's why it's been allowed to do.
And
go
therefore,
this
it's a
way.
desirable thing. Good question. I don't know. But other thoughts about us generating a letter about the things that I talked about?
I support that.
Okay. So maybe we can put together a preliminary draft, and then we can get it to everybody, and we
With
can.
several
look
bullet
it over.
points.
Yep. I
What
can
we're
do that.
recommending, including
New tipping floor,
floor upgrade, more seasonal resources to support frequent cleaning of the floor.
and the problem of commercial haulers, the amount of tonnage and other towns' tonnage coming to Chatham, especially since a town like Brewster doesn't allow.
And I would add exploring odor control technologies where available.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Faley, anything else you want to bring to us? So I would say we'll generate a letter of support, making a recommendation and urging discussion that would go to the select board, and maybe would be there before you present to them, and it would be a help to you to make your case. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, it does. I appreciate your continued support.
Okay, and this will be an ongoing issue, because Ron, how many years back do you think this goes, Ron?
Long time. I don't want to say. how
Yes,
long.
you had a comment.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible for them to hire someone else for that Wednesday by switching people around or something? Or
Well, I think that's what Mr. Faley is going to the select board,
Yeah.
having to do with manpower.
that's when
and
they're
money.
closed for.
Being creative.
Budget.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Faley.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
for
thank you.
coming.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay. All right, good. So that's, now, okay. Next on the agenda is an update on the new short-term rental registration by Karen Chimoisa, who is here. And when did you come on board? It was April,
Late April.
late April. So the registration went into effect in March, or February, March. And so it's just ramping up this summer. You're just starting. So we asked you to come and just give us a report on what's happened.
Okay.
And we have sort of a summary in the packet, but maybe you can go over that for everyone.
Yeah, sure. So as of today, we have about 872 rental certificates. So that's about 350 more than when I talked to you last. Of those, 815 have been resolved. 4 were stopped, and then the others, we've had requested changes, and they have not yet responded. So that's where it currently stands. I've done outreach. We did get the list of all those that have registered with the state. Fortunately, when the state provides the list, it's everyone who has ever registered. So once we've deduplicated, taken out those that have sold their homes, I reached out to those people, and we've gotten a fair amount back. We're still kind of working off that list. I've also gone through the major online platforms, Airbnb, We Need a Vacation, and VRBO, and found those that don't have a rental certificate there and reached out to them.
And how many were there in that category? That you saw them being advertised in one of those 3 venues, and yet they have never applied to Chatham for a certificate. How
About 200.
That's the number, yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just ask, just sorry to interrupt. 1,500 was the total number on the Mass Department of Revenue list. And after you made all your deductions, how many short-term rentals in Chatham do you think are on that list total? Would it be 1,200 or 1,000, or you,
It is, so we sent to 708 letters, from that list.
and those letters were people,
For people who had not yet, from that list, who had not applied for a rental certificate.
and then how many were on that list of who had applied in addition?
So
About?
I'm not really sure, because with the duplicate and the other owners,
Okay.
but we had 500 at that time. There were about 700 that weren't on the list.
All right, so when looking at that list, you came up with 700 additional short-term rental properties in Chatham that were registered with the state, but had not registered with the town of Chatham.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's,
That's a lot.
okay, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. So we've worked through it. We had approximately 300 people from those letters apply. We're still kind of working on that. We have, 100 or so that I found both listings and were on the list. So that's kind of my target for right now of people that I think are realistically renting. There's about 200 people still on the list from the state that I haven't been able to find a listing anywhere. And, you know, I think they've probably just stopped renting.
Right.
I've heard a lot of people that, you know, they did it during COVID and didn't have a necessarily great experience, or it wasn't as profitable as they thought. So they've decided not to rent in the future.
So overall, right now, what would you say are the number of short-term rentals in Chatham?
I'd say it's probably between 900 and 1,000.
900.
And we have a little over, or a little less than 875.
Okay. The people that haven't complied, how long do they have before they cannot rent next year? If they don't comply? What?
Well, part of the issue with not complying is I don't really have a reliable way to reach them. So I can send letters to their address on file, but we haven't, I don't necessarily know that they're getting them, and I don't have a way to effectively order them not to. I can only send letters.
Okay. So we would have to
Yeah.
like almost go to the property next year and see if they're renting it?
Or,
Okay.
or today, I mean,
Right.
I've been following up. We've had a fair number of letters returned, probably around 50. Following up on the internet and see if I can find a better address. That seems to be working. I'm down to about 4 that I can't find any sort of address for.
These people are advertising.
Not
They're
necessarily.
not. They're not
No,
on VRBO or,
Not necessarily, yeah. There's some that are, some that aren't.
if we find an ad for a property that isn't registered and we don't have an address for the owner, can we go to
Post.
Airbnb and tell them that they're in violation by advertising this property?
So there are ways to message the host through the platforms. I'm a little hesitant to do that because it would have to be through my personal account. And I don't know that that is the way forward. I don't think we're there yet. Most of these people have only had one outreach attempt, maximum 2. I think the next step is to send a more sternly worded letter to them.
We need to develop those tools so that we have an SOP, a standard operating procedure, clearly laid out of what we do when we conclude a certain thing is happening or isn't happening. That has been reviewed and approved by the attorney, right? And then in legal posting or what have you, or legal service, and there has to be a thought-through protocol that we rely on.
What we would usually do on any type of a housing issue, we've been trying to, you know, use a carrot instead of a stick so far, but I think if we get to the point where we need to send a more sternly worded letter, it would be, you're, you know, not in compliance, you may be fined,
A cease and desist order.
Yeah, that kind of a letter, and then call them in before the Board of Health. That would be the next step. Usually, when you get to that point, they respond.
Right.
Either they say, we're not doing it anymore, or we're not the owners anymore, and, you know, so.
It's getting to that point.
But we're still, as Karen said, we're kind of winnowing down the numbers and getting, you know, kind of the low-hanging fruit at this point, but, yeah.
So when you say you can't reach them, you're sending a return receipt requested or a certified letter and it doesn't get delivered?
We haven't gotten, so I've just been sending regular mail at this point. I mean, I guess there's a cost benefit to, a return receipt is gonna cost the town $8 a letter. So we're gonna start off with the, 70-cent letter. We've been getting about a 50% response rate, which is not
percentage?
bad for a mass mailing,
What percentages?
about 50%,
50%, yeah.
between calling me and saying they're not renting or applying.
The town of Chatham knows how to contact every property in the town, correct?
We have an
We tax-
official address on file where we send the tax bills.
Yes.
Whether or not those are received is, so
Wherever
I've been getting a lot of mail back, we'll put it that way.
Because they don't want to accept it, or because it's, I mean, if it's the place where the tax bills are sent, that address,
Yeah.
it should be also a valid address to notify them on an issue like this.
I mean,
And if they don't choose to accept it, that's different from it, you know.
I just get the yellow sticky label, return to sender. I don't get a reason.
Carol?
I have a question about if someone complains about overoccupancy, what happens or how is that complaint followed through?
So for over occupancy, I normally start with a drive-by, see if I can see it myself, and then I'll contact either the property owner or the rental agency if they have one. And we've had two, one 99 Main Street you're familiar with, and the other, I'd say they were very responsive. The property company admitted right away that the people had over occupancy and that they were dealing with the issue.
Yeah, let me ask you one question. What is the rental agent's responsibility that their listing complies with our rules about short-term rental regulation? Is it formal, informal? Have you contacted the rental agencies? I mean, do they take any responsibility if they're inaccurately listing?
Technically, under this regulation, it's the owner's responsibility. So technically, the rental agency has no liability there. Most are
They would have an
actually,
interest that
Yeah.
they are being accurate.
I would say most have been responsive. I
If you
haven't
directly
had to.
communicate with all the different rental agencies or
I've reached-
other?
Reached out to them about the program. I haven't had to talk specifics except for complaints with, I think 2 of the 7 or 8 that there are.
How many rental agencies do you think there are in Chatham that coordinate these 900 to 1,000 rental properties? Is there like hundreds, or is there fewer than that?
No, there's bigger ones, and there's probably, let's see, 5 or 6, maybe 7 larger ones that have, say, 30 or more properties.
Okay.
And then there are the people that do it on their own,
Gotcha.
which I think are the bulk of the situation.
Okay.
You think the bulk of what situation?
I think the bulk of rentals are people that advertise on their own
And don't use a rental agency?
and don't use a rental
More than
agency.
50% are probably just doing it on their own.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have another general question. Can a resident make an anonymous complaint to the health department or to you about a rental on the street with parking or numbers? Will you take a complaint from someone that says, I don't want to give my name because I live right next to him?
I mean, I will take it and I will look into it. I think I would prefer a name, but
Right. Because I mean, just in talking to people, I know a lot of people aren't going to call in and make a complaint and give their name because they're afraid they live in the neighborhood and there are people and this and that, and they just don't do it. And if people knew you could make an anonymous complaint, I don't know if you want to or not, but I mean, have that rule, but you would get a lot more input about what's going on in these neighborhoods with these rentals, I would guess.
I mean, if they want follow-up, then they have to leave their name and some contact information.
Yeah.
Once I receive it, it's a public information.
Yeah.
But if they don't want follow-up, then they are more than welcome to call me, and I will not ask too many questions.
And just, can you go over the dates again for, when are you accepting applications for next summer? When are they all supposed to be in by, what date? And,
So
those are the big ones.
the due date for next summer is February 28th of 2025 for the 25 summer season.
Kind of like last summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Judy and I haven't talked about a hard firm date, but I wouldn't imagine we would accept 2025 applications until January. We're still working on
So then
2020.
the other question, the other thing that has come up, we've talked about is, this first year was a ramp up, in the next year, there'll be a lot more
Yeah.
experience when we have you on board.
All of the applications that we've gotten so far, which is quite a few, 872, Karen said, they will get an automatic email asking them to renew. And I think that's gonna go out 60 days. We haven't quite firmed that up before their current certificate expires. So that will streamline next year, and then Karen will continue to work on getting the stragglers.
The other thing we talked about when we started this thing up was, what's the public relations plan? What's, public information awareness? How do you get the word out? Because I'm sure people will say, well, I didn't know, or something. How do we make everyone, as many people as possible, aware that this short-term rental regulation is in place and they need to register with the dates? I mean, an advertisement in the Chronicle and the Cape Cod Times, what else can be done?
Right now, we're in a bit of a hard situation. We've reached out, through the Main Street, through the Chamber of Commerce, we've done the social media. I think our stragglers are people that aren't necessarily as invested in local Chatham news. So I'm not sure how we reach those second homeowners that don't follow town doings. And that's where the kind of crux of this.
Do you have contact with people in your position in other towns? Most towns have this regulation in place, and what they're doing, do you ever communicate with them or have any, what are they doing to get these programs rolling or not?
I don't know that any other town has necessarily a specialized person for it,
Because if you just put it out there and then don't do anything, not
Then
much happens.
yeah.
If I can make a suggestion, even though you may not capture a large portion of renters who may not be following local media, I believe it would be useful for us to have a display ad.
An announcement.
Like an announcement, like, reminder to Chatham property owners or something like, written up, and then that announcement run in, say, 3 or 4 Cape Cod Chronicle issues.
Cape Cod Times.
Cape Cod Times, leading up to and after the start of the next cycle. So I'm just doing this off the top of my head. Say,
Is that a possibility, you think, money-wise and all that?
say,
Yeah, I think we can
say
do that.
February, the end of February, then have the policy for 2 months before that go date, and for 2 months after that date, we have a policy to run a particular type of display ad, making everybody who reads the local media aware. And they may not be renter themselves, but they may know the person next to them does. So you're gonna get
everybody.
You're gonna get some spin-off benefit from just making everyone aware and reminding everyone aware at the right time of the year that, hey, there's a new short-term rental law, in this town, and everybody should be aware of it, and you should comply with it if you are going to rent, and if you know people who are renting. You can word it nicely, but make it be
Yeah.
an informational outreach.
The problem is, a high proportion of the owners are not in.
You keep doing this. Leave
A high proportion of the owners are likely not in Chatham in February or March.
But people
You know,
get,
they don't get the Chronicle mailed to their house
Well,
in New Jersey.
some do.
Not gonna
Some
get
do,
everyone,
some
but-
do, but a
but
lot.
maybe it's a help.
A lot do not.
And it's not that
Yeah,
expensive.
but look at how much you will gain, though. Maybe not.
How else can we get the public relations, the advertisement out so people know? How else do you go about it?
I think you need to send them a letter. The ones,
Well, you need to know the people in
The ones
advance.
that are currently have a certificate are gonna get a letter telling them what they need to do.
Well, you could also do you could do town mailing inserts, right? So if you have, hey, I get a water bill mailed to me, right? I could get a little
I've done that
yellow
before.
insert tucked in that.
I've done that
bill.
before.
Hmm?
I've done mailing inserts for something.
Well, that would,
So, I mean,
and that
you
might,
drop an announcement in with your tax bill or something?
exactly,
They'll
and
let
that,
you- they'll
and
let you
that
do
would
it?
not cost the
Yeah,
town
you
that
have to
much
s-
to do, because
you
you're
have
doing the mailing anyhow.
They hire someone that do those, send out those tax bills. If we prepare something and get it to them, they will insert it.
There's
Well, I
another
think that's
way
a
to
pretty good idea.
outreach.
That's in May and October.
That's another way.
Yeah, it might be too late for October, which is unfortunate.
But there's
but-
there's
even
things other than tax bills.
May would probably be fine.
We could get it in for May, to remind people. We'll definitely work on that.
Let me ask you, Karen, all these numbers in the cross-reference with the state, is that work that you've been doing all summer long as things roll along? Or it's not just in the last, after, the September when the summer died down?
No.
It's right on and on.
That was quite an undertaking because the state actually only gives you the street address
Right.
and the person that registered. So we had to match that with
Yeah.
the mailing addresses from assessing, so.
Pretty clearly, if you could figure out who's paying the state tax and not the town tax, I mean, they're pretty clearly are going to comply if they become aware of what you know.
One would hope.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a good, I agree with that, John, and that's doable.
Yep.
Other questions or other comments from the public? Input? Okay.
It sounds to me like you've made very good
Yeah,
progress.
I mean, it's terrific.
Since you came on board. I'm impressed, quite frankly.
But I would just ask you, in closing, Karen, what are the problems with this short-term rental regulation from your perspective? What doesn't work, and what can be improved from what you see that you can inform us about, you can tell us? Or let us know, or what we could then do to help you?
Right.
So when I was thinking about it, 'cause we did get these ahead of time, one of the things I think is gonna become an issue once we start doing inspections is that occupancy of 2 people per bedroom plus 2. Under the state housing code, if a bedroom is between 70 and 100 square feet, the occupancy is only 1. So in older homes particularly, I'm gonna have to drop that occupancy to meet the state code. So you're kind of a little looser.
So this year, you're going to do more inspections, or right now, when somebody registers, the place is not inspected?
No.
You just go by the health board records or whatever and figure out if the right number of bedrooms for the septic. So are inspections going to become more a part of what you do?
I think starting next year is
And
the
how might
plan.
that work, or what would that be?
I mean, we haven't really planned exactly how we're gonna go about it. I think, it'll be random to start, and also following up on quote-unquote, the problem properties.
Right.
I think what Karen is saying about occupancy is for bedrooms, you have to have 50 square feet per person. We often go in these rooms that are small, that have, 2 twin beds and a full bed or something, so theoretically, you could put 3 people, and if the room's not big enough for that, we would be concerned about it. But we would also have to take up the the square footage of the entire house, to determine the total occupancy of the property, so.
Sounds complicated.
Yeah, that they do it in Dennis routinely. They've had a rental program, year-round rental program since the 70s. So it'd be something we would just have to come up with
Do they inspect all the
inspection
properties?
form.
Dennis?
What they have always done is when a new owner takes over a rental property, it gets inspected. And then if there's,
Changeover.
if there's
Ownership
complaints. Ownership change or a new one or complaints.
That's logical. That's one way to
Yeah.
do it objectively and gain some,
Yeah, so the new owner has to register and, we would.
give way for.
So that would be something we could talk about as well, if any new properties come on.
It's a way to stretch it out and.
Right.
And get started slowly but surely.
And then also Karen's gonna be taking some housing inspection courses over the next few months, so we'll get everybody up to speed.
But our rules are kind of based on sewage flow, which is per bedroom. We don't say people can have smaller septic systems if their bedrooms are small, or if the total volume of their house is small.
Well,
People may put a cot in the living room,
Right.
as long
that's
as
why you
they
have to
don't exceed the total number of people in the house that we're allowing.
It's a temporary thing.
So
yeah, it gets a little
it'll
complicated.
get
but-
complicated.
Yeah, so. But I think so far, we're off to a
Yeah.
good start. Karen's
Year
really
one.
gotten a lot of
right.
people on board, and, I think we're just, figuring it out.
What, do we know the total revenue year-to-date? That has come in?
We do, yes. It's in our, it would have been in our annual report last year.
50 times what?
Next
875?
Yeah, basically, next summer we'll have a better number, because we had just started it. It's
Okay.
the fiscal year that we end.
Okay, well, that's great. So Karen came on board in April, so it's just sort of a ramp-up summer, first summer?
Yep.
Sounds to me like a lot's been going on. It's
Yes.
a good start. And so you and Judy will work together and sort of map out what we're going to do the next summer, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll be,
Bigger and better.
yeah. So that's great. Ron?
Judy, do you have a budget for this program, the rental program? Like
well-
attack of money in, money out?
Yeah, it's not a, what's it called, a revolving account, I don't believe, I think it's
No.
just part of.
Well, the fee goes to the town.
The budget is, the staff, hiring staff and,
The registration fee goes where?
to the town,
To the town, yeah.
yeah,
Town council,
general fund, yeah.
Lastly, just one of the issues that come up is street parking. In my neighborhood in the summer, the street parking seemed brutal this summer. But the town traffic rules and orders prohibit overnight parking on public roads, period. Now, the police obviously aren't excited about enforcing that in the summer months because whatever, but that is there in terms of parking.
Yep.
I'll just say that. Lastly, any other questions or comments? And then anything from the public? If not, that is great. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, and then, all right,
Minutes,
we
Minutes.
got old business.
old business,
You can just step up to or sit, I guess, if you want to. I don't know if that one works. Yeah, up at the podium.
Hi, I'm still awake. My name's Carol Bliss. I live in West Chatham. I wasn't really prepared to speak tonight, but in the past, I have spoken to Dr. Noble and Judy about the concerns that many of my neighbors and myself have regarding the pollution from the air traffic at the airport. I brought this up before, and I sent out lots of information on recent studies talking about the pollution that comes from the air travel. And I think you all have copies of that in the past. I'm not satisfied with what the Airport Commission has given as an example, that they're working on. Maybe there'll be, flights in the future that don't require gas. They have a hard time getting a certain kind of gas, because in the meantime, we're polluting our air, and especially for children, especially at the busy restaurant. And I think the Health Department needs to take a deep dive into this issue, because it seems like it's being just passed along as that's just the way it is when you live near the airport. But it's not just the airport, it's the town of Chatham that it affects if you look at the research. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think it was back in the late spring, I think we had a forum, and Mr. Harrison was there, and we talked about the issues. But the issue basically is there still is lead in the aviation fuel they're using for the planes at the airport, in the avgas. And in the past, there was no 100 octane lead-free aviation fuel available, but it is available now. It is being produced. I think the state of California has banned
I believe
Yes,
Falmouth
they have.
has it.
avgas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new thing. So it's worth us probably just revisiting what's happening, what's planning. I mean, I know they're planning to put in a big tank of jet fuel, but what are they doing about getting 100 octane lead-free aviation fuel in the airport, which would go a long way towards the problem you're talking about. So I think it's an issue we should bring up and review again.
Definitely.
We'll do that. Thank you very much.
Definitely.
I
Thank
can
you very
also,
much for,
just say that it's kind of timely. I just received a grant to get some air monitoring devices. They're wireless Bluetooth devices. The Department of Environmental Protection is giving us, I think, 5 of them, and we're going to put them up around town. I'm not sure they check for lead.
Yeah, what do they test for?
Yeah, their general air quality is probably CO.
Is it a suction? Do they blow a certain amount of air through a,
I can get you more information. They're just little canisters. They're like this big, and they connect to a cell phone, and.
are they measuring particulates?
Yeah, I would believe that's what it is.
Or it's not VOCs, they're not measuring
No,
volatile
it's
organic-
not, and I don't know if lead, I'd have to get more information. I wasn't
you-
prepared to talk about it tonight, but they will be going up hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months. We're going to put them up in, they have to be in places that have electricity and Wi-Fi. So hopefully we will get one either over at the airport or here in this building.
definitely. My big concern is children. And if you go on a weekend, the restaurant's very busy, that outside area where the planes idle.
Yep.
And there's young children, of course, who love airplanes. And I think we really have a responsibility to our population to try to keep our air as clean as possible. And it's not just the people who are living around the airport. If you look at the research articles I gave you, you can see that it would be pretty much the whole of Chatham that's been affected by the air quality. And I believe, and I don't have the facts, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I believe the airport said that last month was the highest level of Pilates they had for the summer. And if you look at the graph, it goes straight up pretty much.
What are they measuring?
The Pilates is just the number of flights there are.
But
I mean-
that's jet fuel. That doesn't have lead.
Thank you.
What's the
Pilatus are turbojet engines. They do not have lead in the fuel.
what is the word you're
That's
saying?
Pilatus, the Pilatus PC-12, the big turboprop planes that are
Turboprop
landing
that go-
and taking off all the time, that carry about 12 passengers. But those are jet-powered planes, turboprops. They don't have lead in the fuel.
Okay.
It's the old traditional piston engine.
It's the
planes
little
using lead fuel.
Cessnas and Pipers.
But we talked in that previous session about testing for lead. The airport hasn't done any testing. I think
No.
Nantucket Airport has done testing. And I think just generally, public health, I'm not an expert, but, there are safe lead levels, but I think as time goes on, the thought more is that any lead is bad. There's
Yeah.
no safe level of lead. So anyway, I think it's something we can bring up and talk about again. Okay. And any other old business? Carol?
Do we have an update on McGrath by any chance?
Judy?
The select board is going to have an executive session tomorrow night to discuss next steps. So that's really all I can say.
What was that? I did, I
Do we
just-
know what
The
the
select board will be,
McGrath, about the
John,
cleanup for
there,
Milton?
it's going to be on an executive session tomorrow night with town council and
Okay.
PD, and
are you
So
gonna be
how
here?
do we,
I will not be there, but Greg will be there.
how do we get the results of what they're, how the progress is being made? What are they up to now? Are they?
Well, we're waiting for them to decide if they're gonna, if we're gonna pursue the next step, so,
Which
which
is
is town,
Legal filings
legal
in
filings,
Barnstable
yes.
County.
so that's really all we can talk about
It's
at the
kind of been
moment.
in a new phase where it's not public information what they are doing. But one of the questions that has come up is when will we get information that we can make public on that
Right,
Mill Hill
As
exactly.
soon as I know, I
don't
will
know- we don't
provide
know
it
yet.
with, to you.
The executive session won't be available
No,
online, and we won't
No.
No, we don't
know
know
anything
anything.
about the
No.
results of the executive until they.
Right.
They could tell us, but they'd have to kill us then.
Well, hopefully they'll give some information soon, because I thought maybe
Well,
clean
Judy
up in
might
the
get some
fall.
feedback from Greg Berman perhaps, but it
I
might be
will,
confidential.
I will, I'm sure, yep.
It'll be, I mean, sure.
Um,
Other
I can,
old business, correspondence, whatever.
Minutes?
If not, we have minutes from the September 9th meeting. Does anybody have any additions, corrections?
I'll make a motion, we accept the draft minutes of September 9th, 2024.
In a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and then all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
can I,
Okay,
can I just make one announcement?
yes.
You brought up the flu clinics, and we are sponsoring 2 flu clinics this year. Wednesday, October 9th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. You're going to register online. There's a link on the Board of Health page on the website, or anybody can always contact the Health Department, and we can send people a link. It's actually, it's not a very user-friendly link, but I will be putting posters up around town that has a QR code that you can also scan to register online. So that's Wednesday, November 9th from 10 to 12, and then there will be a second clinic for families, Monomoy school employees, town employees, and anybody who can't really meet the first one. If they want to come, it's fine.
Same time?
So nope, that one is from 3 to 5 p.m. on October 16th.
Okay.
And they're both drive-through clinics at the DPW, same as we've been doing.
What's the date of the first clinic?
October 9.
Of which month?
Wednesday, October 9th,
October 9th.
and then Wednesday, October
As you said to
16th.
me, okay.
We will have
October 9th.
high-strength COVID, high-strength flu vaccine and COVID.
Okay, so
You can get A or B or A and B?
Yes,
Okay.
so you can get a COVID shot and a flu shot at the October 9th clinic.
yes,
Okay, and then you could
So-
register online.
yes.
All right, that's
Good.
great. Ron?
One of this issue, if the selectmen are meeting on this and it's being done, where the people can't, why can't we be, it is part of our process, the Board of Health. We're the ones that brought it to them. Why can't,
Mill Hill?
yeah, we were the ones that have been operating on it for a long
I
time.
think you could be there,
No.
or a
I'd like to see
representative
at
of the
least
Board of Health could be there.
Someone that could share it with the rest of us.
Well, Greg will be there.
Will Greg share it with us?
Of course, yep. I mean,
Well, they could share with us
what he can,
as
yeah.
members, but I think from the public, because it's, not everything is in the public now, realm about what's being
Yeah.
done. I believe, is that true?
At this point, right,
At this point.
yeah. But it will be.
We could get
Once a
feedback as
decision's made,
ourselves,
it
I
will be.
think, the board, members.
But if one of the board members would like to attend,
I think the
Noble, if-
chair, I think our chair and maybe a second should be invited to attend representing the Board of Health. We've had the lead advocacy on this
Yeah.
issue
We're the ones that
Exactly.
brought it up
for
to 'em.
years.
And he hasn't done anything for a cleanup. I drove by, and
No,
he's
and-
totally ignoring everything,
When's their executive?
so.
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
I think the meeting starts at 4:30, so it's at the end of the meeting. So. Let me know. I can arrange it.
Does anybody want to go?
Look, is that done?
The executive
Session that there are other people from other boards or other people, or?
There will
You have to get
only be it will, yeah, you just have to, but I don't see why you wouldn't be able to attend. I can clarify that tomorrow and you can either attend in person or you may possibly be able to get a link for the private executive session.
Okay, and then we can figure out who volunteers to go.
I think,
Carol would like to go.
Carol would like to go.
I'll go with Cal.
And Rob will go,
Well,
okay. So, see-
here?
Okay, yes, and you,
so see if we can get an approval from the select board that two representatives of the health board are there during executive session, so we have an interest in what's going on, and we basically have we have the authority to order a cleanup, but we threw in with a town effort. I shouldn't say all this, perhaps, I don't know.
okay? I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay, good.
All right,
Anything left?
that's it.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second? Second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? No one's opposed, so we are adjourned. Turn off your mics.
Bye.